Hey there everyone, Luke here, and yeah, just like I predicted, it seems that we are getting into the battles. Like, we had the battle set up chapter, it seems now we're getting into the individual battles moving forward. Obviously with this chapter starting with Keigo's fight against Agro. Now before I get into that, really excited, the final part of the final season of Dr. Stone has just dropped, so hopefully at some point I'll be doing like another what's the difference on the entire full series. I did debate, like, should I do it in like the parts or should I just wait until the full season comes out, and I decided to wait for the full season to come out so that I could go back, watch them again, and then jot down the things that I want to talk about. Just make that a big, huge, long ass video for that whole season, which I'm really looking forward to. So anyway, hopefully that's for later. For now, we're just going to get right back to Witch Watch No War, chapter 242, titled Bone Crisis Part 11. And again, like I said, I'm honestly expecting this point to be even longer than Day of Disaster, considering now we're just starting to get into the individual fights themselves, and considering this fight seems to be like it's going to be a multi-chapter fight, like it's going to be like probably three chapters, who knows. So anyway, we start off from where we left off, where we had Keigo getting in between Nemu disguised as Shikimiya and Argo, as Argo was just approaching him, and eventually Nemu just drops the Shikimiya, like she disengages it, goes back to being herself, as Keigo thanks her and says like, oh, you really did save our hides here, and Nemu says like, oh, it's okay, I couldn't just stand around doing nothing. But at this point I love like okay, great, you did really well for us, thank you for that. And then we'll be, oh, it's okay, I just wanted to help, I couldn't just sit around doing absolutely nothing. But then they're probably thinking about like, oh yeah, we're meant to hate each other at the moment, like, yeah, we can't really talk to each other about the misunderstanding that we had going on. So Keigo calls Shomi over. It's like, okay, both of you take the thermals to get out of here. Once you're in the clear, take care of the bone Nemu's carrying. I'll keep this guy occupied. And yeah, best to get them out of the way, even though I would have liked to have seen a Nemu Keigo team up here in this fight, obviously because of the fact that they're witches and they're bound to the fact like, oh, they can't attack, otherwise they risk themselves becoming warlocks. And considering like the sheer aura of intensity that Argo just emanates, like Agro emanates, like you just see it, like Agro just being like intensely staring at them, and like, okay, yeah, best for us to get out of here, because yeah, really just looking at him, giving the death glare, yeah, book her out of it. But as soon as they start to book her out of it, Charlie just notices like this presence coming around them, and we do see like visages of white just swirling around the area, which from based on what we're going to find out later on, this is part of Agro's ability. So maybe next chapter we'll find out exactly what kind of warlock he actually is, because we still don't know like what warlock Agro actually is. But yeah, they sense it, and Nemu's like, oh, something's on here. But before she comes out, we see like one of the white visages go in, strike Nemu's like literally strikes through, passes right through her leg, and causes a devastating blow on her that causes a really bad rash to appear on her leg, from the point that it was actually moved, like almost like an arrow, like a devil's arrow just struck right through her leg, but it was like more transparency, and we'll soon find out like what the deal is with this ability as the visages start to swirl around Agro. So like we said, obviously this is part of his ability, and then it's like, focus your magical energy. If you look closely, you'll be able to see him, as we see a really okay. So it's a ghostly, wormy image, but with like stitches on its eye and stitch up lips. Think of like the Saw 4, the opening trap from Saw 4, and you get the idea of what is on this creature's face. So after the visage becomes like visible to Chomi and Nemu, Chomi's reaction is pretty much like what anyone's reaction would be, like calling them gross and being like disgusted by them. And yeah, pretty freaky thing we've got going on here, which Agro takes offense to. Is like, don't call them gross, they're my precious little ghosts. So this is kind of like getting to my idea of what kind of warlock Agro actually is. He might be the ghost warlock, able to contact, control spirits, or the spirit warlock. So something along those lines. As he goes on to explain, you're going to stand in my way, hoping that you can let these girls escape her. How our youth, how chivalrous. My youth was hell, though. I was the favourite punching bag for a trio of idiots. I refuse to be human. Ever since. Obviously, going more to the dark side, becoming a warlock, a dark witch, possibly even being I'm really gonna go. Really might actually go dark here, but he probably decided to end his humanity in the ultimate way possible. I'm not gonna say it in this review, but you know what I'm getting at here. So Agro is essentially no longer of this world. He's a warlock, no longer of this world. If you get what I'm getting at here. As he goes on and says, why did it end up like this? Why is it only me? This isn't fair. We both have supernatural powers. And you see him, like, I do like the way I do like the way this chapter actually displays out. It's so calm, collective, but like, don't call them gross, they're my precious little ghosts. Why did it end up like this? Like, and you just don't see his face right away before the next panel where he's like getting really angry. Like, you see him like like real proper angry, like taking his name to the next level and really taking on the mantle of Agro, as you see him just yelling at Keigo to be like, don't play the hero around me, you privileged little brat. And Keigo at this point is like, oh, just shut up, I've got problems just like any other team my age. Like, you don't know anything about me and the problems that I'm going through, so what gives you the right to say that, oh, I'm a spoiled little brat when I have problems going on? And it's at this point where they really start to get the fight going, as we see Agro's ghost just launch itself at Keigo, who immediately just gets out of the way before we cut over to Slump tending to Nemu and Chomi looking over her, as Nemu says, here is fine, I can't move much farther. So Chomi, you've got to get somewhere safe. You've got to take my boat. Get out of here. Get to where Miria is, so that you can dissolve the bone, and take the talisman that that Kukuryu gave us. And at this point, Nemu is again starting to feel like, oh, she's useless, she couldn't do anything, and she was the one that actually got herself hurt. So now she's having to play the damsel in distress and not even able to fulfill her mission. And that's what she's really like succumbing to here, with the depression of, like, she's supposed to be helpful, but this is all she can manage at this point. Before Chomi says, no, it's okay, you did play. Nemu, you were the one. I agree with Chomi. You were the one that actually stole one of the bones. So if anything, you've done more than enough to earn a break right now. So it doesn't matter, like, if your leg's damaged, like, you've earned it now. You stole one of the bones. You've basically essentially completed half the mission by yourself. So Chomi says, like, oh, leave the rest to us. And Slum says, oh, we'll march on, brother. And thank God that Slum doesn't have to speak like Maverick anymore, because my God, that was getting annoying really, really quickly. So after the brief little scene with Chomi and Nemu, we cut back over to the fight where we have the ghosts just flinging anything they can get their hands on at Keigo, like gravel, even a grand piano that they just throw at them, as Keigo goes into an inner monologue by saying, oh, he calls them ghosts, right? I can vaguely see them. Are they like literal ghosts? Are they more like some? How many are actually of them? But based on what we see from like the swirls around Agro, I assume there's only three of them, because that's all the visage lines that we actually see. So at the moment, currently, there's 3 ghosts that are just roaming around this place that Keigo has to dodge and make quick use of. But what he notices is something really like sinister about these ghosts. So you see one of the, so I guess they're like they represent the one of the 8 plagues of Egypt, like the death of the firstborn, except now it happens on a wide scale. I assume that's what they're going for here, based on the fact that one of the ghosts goes through one of the fish tanks and literally all the fish are dead at that point. And this is something that Keigo even brings up here, like the aquarium itself is undamaged, though they must have some kind of curse problem. So I guess it's like cursed of, like, based on the plagues of Egypt. I assume that's what they're going for here, or they're just like, or it's just like, oh, whatever the ghosts go through just drains like the life force out, like completely. Maybe that's like how it explains like what's happening with Nemu. Like she has a dead leg because it went right through her leg, and I guess that's what they're going for here. Like, oh, they literally just like wherever they pass through, instant death, which again is a very scary ability to have when you go up against something like that. And Keigo at this point, again, just regretting the fact that he has to resort to this, like he has to resort to the wolf transformation, which is something that Agro is very quick to pick up on. It's like, oh, go on then, I can see what you're trying to do here, Keigo. You want to transform, so go right ahead and transform yourself. Of course, because you're a useless fighter, like just baiting Keigo at this point. You're a useless fighter. I knew a kid a lot like you, the little prick who taught big game because he had a bully back him up, and yeah. I'm kind of on the side with Agro in here. Like, it's very cowardly of someone to say, oh, you're only doing this because someone is there to protect you, and you could just hide behind them like a coward. Yeah, I don't like people like that as well. Like, think they're a big shot, where if you didn't have that person there with them, and it's just one-on-one, you wouldn't be acting the big man right there. So I kind of get what Agro's going for here, and yeah, it would really get to someone like Keigo, who's basically trying to be like, I don't want to be like Wolf, I don't want to keep relying on Wolf, I want to rely on my own power. So yeah, I can kind of see like why Agro went with this angle here. And he continues on and says, as soon as his mouth got him in trouble, the coward went running for his power. It's not even you doing the work, Keigo, but you're still trying to act cool by saying you'll handle this. People like you are the worst kind of scum. And again, kind of get what where Agro is coming from here, because I agree, like, that is a very cowardly thing to do, to just run your mouth, but then, like, when things get too tough, it's like, oh, I'm just gonna go and hide behind the guy, like, I don't have to face the consequences of my actions. Like, yeah, so I kind of get what he's going at here, but obviously with Keigo, it's totally different. Like, he wants to, like, no, I seriously want to handle this without having to resort to my essentially my backup power that I've been relying on so much. I want to be like Keigo, not Keigo who uses Wolf. I just want to be, I'm Keigo, going to use my powers as Keigo, not as Wolf. So after Agro baits Keigo, and you just see like Keigo really started to get under his skin, Agro goes into an inner monologue by saying like, oh, it's just like Intel said, Keigo the werewolf has deep issues controlling his power. And yeah, good, hesitate, give me time to finish you off without having to worry about Wolf. And we cut over to Keigo's internal monologue as he says about Wolf, how Wolf's always been a headache, more problems for him, and it made him sad, as we see like just flashbacks of the times when Wolf was out compared to how Keigo interacts, and even going after the girl that he like referring to Nemu. And Keigo admits to himself that he's never wished he wished he never needed to transform into Wolf, and he didn't want himself, but at this point he starts to think about what Mojito said, and where it's like, I'm going to protect the ones I love, that's all. And he seems to come to the conclusion that Wolf is kind of strength that can be used to protect the ones that he does care about. So like, trying to not think of him as like a separate entity, but more like Wolf is me. Wolf is the side that could be my bolder half. Kind of the same thing that what happened with Yamayugi, Atem, and Yugi himself. Like Yugi relying on Atem to be in his bolder half and give him confidence. I feel like this is kind of like the same angle that Keigo is trying to take at this point. Like Wolf not being seen as a separate like cursed being, but rather like the bolder side of Keigo that can do the things that normal Keigo can't do. But again, I do like that Keigo still wants to try and rely and try and get to be as confident as Wolf can be. So as the ghost continues to attack, and you see Keigo trying to desperately go and like, I've got no choice, I've got to transform into Wolf, removing the wristband. The ghost's like, yeah, I'm not gonna have that, and just flicks the wristband away as Agro says like, oh, you can't transform now, you're nothing but a useless wimp, get him, Ghost. And this is where you can start to see that much as I do agree with Agro with him saying like, with the bully and hiding behind them, like, oh, you're nothing more than a coward for being like that. This is kind of like what Agro is actually doing, and I feel like it's kind of ironic that he can't understand how hypocritical he's being, because he's not attacked Keigo himself, like, physically. He's just been running running his mouth. Literally, he literally spells it out. He's literally saying, like, I am the bully who runs his mouth, and then the second things get too tough, I hide behind something. That is literally what Agro is doing here. So I find it quite amusingly ironic that you can't see how hypocritical he's being here, where he's like, oh, get him, Ghost, get him, the thing that I'm cowering behind and using the strength to attack my enemy right now. So maybe that's going to come into play. Maybe Keigo and maybe Wolf, because it's obvious from the end it's obvious that Keigo is going to transform into Wolf, and maybe Wolf, after seeing all of this, actually calls Agro out on that hypocrisy of the fact, like, hey, you've not attacked with your own fists, Keigo. You've just been relying on Ghost yourself. Kind of like what the bullies do to you, and how you call them the worst kind of school when you're literally doing the exact same thing that they would do. I really hope Wolf actually calls Agro out on this kind of hypocrisy that he's actually doing right now. So as the Ghost literally punches Keigo, he goes flying right across the room. We see Nemu just like screaming for Keigo's name as Agro goes, confine you in a small space with no crescent and you're finished. We know all your weaknesses, but again, if you take out the ghosts away from Agro, what does he actually have in terms of combat abilities? That's what I want them to bring up. But yeah, we see that Keigo has actually transformed into Wolf, and everyone is just there like, wait a minute, how? And it turns out like the crescent moon was not on the wristband at this point, but rather they got a tattoo. They got a tattoo of it. So I feel like I feel like this is kind of like what happened when they tried to turn into Wolf in Day of Disaster. They were like, okay, we need to find a way so that if the wristband does get stolen, does get taken away, how can we still transform into Wolf? And probably Wolf was the one to suggest, like, let's just get a tattoo of a crescent moon on there, because even if it wasn't a tattoo, it's just like penciled in, it would still work, because all he has to do is see a crescent moon and he would turn into Wolf. So yeah, that's what it is. As Wolf explains, the wristband is for hiding it. Keigo's idea. It hit him when he saw the mark he got from making a formal pact with Nico. Also, it is a tattoo that he got from making a pact with Nico. As we see Keigo looking in a mirror, looking at himself and saying, a crescent the enemy can steal from me is no use at all. Instead, I'll carve one onto me. This is how I'm showing my commitment to the mission. So like, if things go to shit, I can still bring out Wolf, and we can still be used to fight. As he says, oh, you're in the same boat. Like it or not, you and I are stuck with each other for like... Okay, so it turns out that it's not going to be a case of like, oh, Wolf is going to be separated from Keigo. Like, and it seems like Keigo at this point is starting to... Okay, Wolf... I shouldn't treat him as like a separate being that I should be afraid of. I should accept him as like, he is part of me. he is a side of me that I am gonna have to live with. I'm gonna have to deal with. And despite the fact that I want to rely on my own powers, I feel the need that we still need to keep Wolf here as like a general backup, just in case things go rough. As we see, Wolf uses immense strength to just push Agro back, flying him through a wall, and he says, "I've got this, partner," and that's where the chapter ends. So really good start to the fight with Agro and Kago. Really nice that we finally get some glimpses of like what Agro's true abilities are, and really starting to see like Kago starting to come to accept Wolf rather than be disturbed by him or be feared by him, like actually coming to accept him as part of his soul, which is going to make things awkward when the confession with Nemu eventually does occur. Now again, like I said, I feel like how this fight is probably going to end is that Wolf has probably been watching this the whole time through Kago, noticing like, wait a minute, this guy went on about a bully spying his mouth and then hiding behind someone who was bigger, more powerful than him, so he didn't have to deal with the consequences of his actions. And yet he's not attacked us. He's just been using these ghosts as projectiles and basically commanding them like how a bully would command the big guy to be like, "Hey, can you deal with this guy? This is the guy that's been attacking me. Can you deal with this guy after I sparred off my big mouth?" So yeah. Wolf would obviously be the one to call him out on that and just really get him angry and basically drop the ghost, and maybe that would be like, this is how we are different, because unlike you who sees the ghost as separate entity, me and Kago now, we don't see each other as separate. We see each other as a necessity to keep this life force going. We treat each other as partners, whereas you treat your ghosts as tools or individuals to be used by you, and that's like how they're probably going to be able to take down Agro at the end of this fight. But that's something we'll just have to wait and see. But like I said, really hope that Agro is called out on his hypocrisy here. So anyway, guys, what did you think of this chapter? Let me know. Like, subscribe, comment, all that jazz. And this be Lasherluke signing off. Later, guys.